Serious, what was the scariest paranormal activity experience you have ever had? I worked at a nursing home where we had a resident that we had recently put on hospice. We will call him Norman. Norman was a chain smoker, and that was basically the only thing that gave him pleasure in life. It didn't matter that he had pneumonia and it was the middle of the winter. He was going to smoke. Anyways, I go into work around 8 o'clock Saturday night to check something out, and see Norman smoking in the parking lot with two people I don't recognize. I don't think anything of it since this is a daily occurrence with him. I drove right by him and he casually looked at me before turning back to shoot the shit. I finish what I came to do, go home, and have a good rest of my weekend. The following Monday, during our morning meeting, the director of nursing announces that Norman had died over the weekend. I made a comment about how sad that was and that I had just seen him smoking Saturday night and that it was strange he was gone. My administrator turns pale and says to me, "Norman died early Saturday morning." Not believing him, I checked the nursing notes, and sure enough, Norman had died around 2 o'clock Saturday morning. I was pretty freaked out the rest of the day. Not so much scary, but when I was about 16, my neighbor's dad was diagnosed with a super aggressive cancer. He was like a second father to me and always made sure I was fed. Grew up in a somewhat food insecure house, as he loved cooking. Anyway, about 3 months after the diagnosis he passed away. I had been over there earlier in the evening but had come home at about 10 p.m. At 12:04 a.m., I was on my family's desktop computer in the kitchen, early 2000s, when all of the pots and pans in the cupboard clanked together. I pretty much assumed he was passing through and saying bye, but I got confirmation in the morning when his wife told me that he had passed at 12:04. I have had a whole bunch of these type of things happen since, but that was the first that I can remember. For the past year and a half, I have someone who turns on, off my dishwasher, washing machine, and cycles to through a dimmer on my kitchen light when I'm around, but it doesn't feel scary, just attention seeking. Was out on a farm when I was around 11. Now this farm was far away from any cities and was generally flat. There was nothing really planted, so the ground was flat except for a few mounds. The time was around 11 p.m. and the only light we could see was the house light, but beyond that you couldn't see anything. We were out on the porch of the house playing with a rugby ball. One of us kicked it in at the dark and we didn't expect to see it till day because no one wanted to walk in pitch dark to get it. About a minute later it comes flying at the house out of the dark and hits the front door. This freaked the hell out of us because all the adults were inside and all the workers were nowhere near, and I still don't know who threw it. Orthodox religion has some kind of a rule, that if somebody dies, they don't actually leave towards the afterworld until 40 days later. Not sure what they are doing until then, but to celebrate their passing, 40 days after their death there is another burial feast, not sure how to translate this, where food is given for free in their honor to people that, basically never knew them. But I digress. In 2001, my best friend and first true love died. I'm no longer a Christian because of that, and after he died I kinda lost track of time. One day, I came back from the university to my room in the campus. I was very tired and although it was midday I just laid down for a nap. And there he was, in my dream, looking at my room telling me that it's not bad, asking me questions about university life and so on. I was so happy he came to visit me. The dream was colored and a perfect replica of my room and hallway. I did not realize I was dreaming. Only when he started leaving and telling me that I should take care of myself, the same way he did, I realized that this was a dream, that in reality he is dead and if he leaves then, I will never see him again. He went out the door, I ran after him and he just disappeared on the hallway in a ray of light. I woke up from my dream screaming his name. Later my mother called me, and she told me that she was just back from his 40 days funeral feast. Yes, the day I had my dream was the 40th day since he died. Still not sure how to explain this, it's like he was saying goodbye, because well, we definitely did not get one. A little late on this one, but When I was 6 or 7, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. My brother, 11 or 12, sister, 5 or 6, and I all shared the smaller bedroom. Every night for several months, Mom would come in to tuck us in, kiss us goodnight, and sing to us until we fell asleep. She would sing stuff from Sesame Street like Ernie's Rubber Ducky Song or Cookie Monster's Cookie Song. She also sang You Are My Sunshine a lot. I asked Mom about it when I was in high school and asked her why she stopped doing that when we moved to a new house. She got really uncomfortable and said, "I have to tell you something." One morning, she said, my sister had thanked her for tucking us in the night before and could she please sing the cookie song again? Mom asked her what she was talking about and my sister, brother, and I all confirmed that the night before she had come in to sing to us. Guys. My mom had never done that. Ever. My stepdad has even confirmed this. Neither of them had any idea why we would think she was in our room after we went to bed. Especially on nights she was working. This wasn't the first or only time people had seen or heard Mom and stepdad in that apartment when they were actually elsewhere, but it's definitely the creepiest. I'm not a serious believer but always thought the idea of the paranormal is interesting. One night I was asleep in my room when I woke up face down in bed and I felt this presence standing over me and I remember literally saying out loud, "Nope, I'm not turning over until this feeling goes away." It did after what seemed like an hour. Now the way my room was set up, there was a short hallway, maybe 8 feet long, inside my room that led to an unfinished basement. No one had been down there in years, so I kept a few rolling racks of clothes there. After that feeling of something standing over me had left, I rolled over and peeked down that hallway and there was just this dark shadow sitting next to the rolling racks by the door. Freaked me the hell out. I told me dad the next day and he said that I wasn't the only person to see something and that when my step-cousin had stayed in my room a few months earlier, while I was away, she heard a baby crying. Never felt comfortable in that room again. I don't actually believe in anything paranormal, but I had an experience a few years ago that I've been unable to explain and it still freaks me out. It's hard to explain if you haven't seen my house, but I'll give it a go. My kids are upstairs asleep. My husband is in our room, on the other side of the house, asleep. I am in the media room, watching a movie on my TV. My husband and I are console gamers who won't play split screen, so we have 2 large, flat-screen TVs mounted to the wall next to each other. They take up the whole wall. Mine is on the right. When you come into the media room, the TVs are on the wall to the left. I am sitting with my back to the door. The only door to the media room is off a narrow hallway and is the first door on the right when coming down the hall from the living room. There is a small lamp on in the living room, so there is ambient light from the hallway. My husband's TV is off and there are no lights on in the media room, which means his TV is one big black reflective surface. I'm watching my show, when I see a shadow reflected in my husband's TV that is large enough to be my 6 feet 3 inches husband lean around and look in the media room door for a few seconds. When he doesn't say anything, I look around, but no one is there. I immediately get up and walk down the hall into the living room. No one is there. Go to the stairs and see that both of the children's doors are shut. I would have heard them on the stairs, anyway. Go directly across the house to find my husband sound asleep. I search the entire house. All of the doors and windows are locked and the security system shows that not a one had been opened since late that afternoon. I still don't know what it was. But I get goosebumps every time I think about it. My husband's mom died when he was 11. One day we were at his grandma's house and everyone had always told me stories of them seeing his mom around the house after she died. I didn't believe it until this happened. We were downstairs and I was about to head up to the bedroom to put my pajamas on. I turned the corner out of the living room and I was at the bottom of the stairs when I saw someone walk past upstairs. She had long brown hair. The only people at the house at this time were myself, my husband, his grandma and our infant daughter. I told them what I saw and his grandma said, "Yeah, that's Lori." I didn't go upstairs to change for a few hours. I haven't really had a scary experience, but I've had some unexplainable occurrences in the past year since my grandfather passed away, like my front door being flung wide open, the knob on the top of my fan being pushed down, my room being unbelievably cold on a 30-degree day, but my most recent was after I had a small argument with my grandmother over something and I felt me head get shoved to the side while I was sitting down. The same type of movement your head would make if someone slapped you really hard, but there was no pain to go with it, just a sudden uncontrollable jolt. I didn't know what to think of it, so I sat in silence for a solid 15 minutes before doing or saying anything. I grew up on an old Native American site my family owns with tons of petroglyphs and artifacts. It's called Nkanki Ranch in Utah. Seriously, check it out. Lots of paranormal activity. The whole place just buzzes with energy. As kids, my cousins and I were always pretty freaked out by lights being messed with and things mysteriously moving, but I remember one time my cousin and I were hiking around and found a small hole hidden in a crevice that led out to a shelf on the outside of a cliff that was the perfect size to crawl through, so we did it. We came out and were super stoked to find this new cool hangout area that we thought nobody knew about. There were a few fantastic petroglyphs that looked brand spanking new. We were just staring, transfixed by these pristine artworks, when a huge gust of wind came out of nowhere and literally blew us to the ground. The wind gust was a typical thing, being that we were on a cliffside, but we had the most intense feeling of foreboding I've ever experienced. I'll never forget that feeling as we both wordlessly looked at each other and ran back home. I also noticed there were foot tracks leading to the hidden hole that I hadn't noticed before. I've since looked for that hole, but not very hard, because I'm not sure I'd even explore it again. Google Nkanki Ranch petroglyphs for some really out-of-this-world looking art.